Welcome everybody to week 2, last day of SLE here, and I am Dessa, being joined by Flate today in a matchup on SLE Gucci versus Reval Lynx.
Yeah, welcome everybody. It's been a long week, a lot of matches already played, but this surely Sunday is always the banger, the closeout day with actually the most matches. So we also have to take priority on what we're gonna watch and stream. So today that's gonna be Gucci Yin against Rebel Lynx, and it's quite a matchup. It's quite a matchup.
Yeah, definitely. So, and like you said it yourself, a lot of other streams as well going through at the moment. So there is a lot of games being played today. Actually, if I'm not completely mistaken, it's 4 games today, which is very exciting. Like you said, the last closing day of week 2 and week 3 with its starting should be, I feel like, an exciting start to week 3 as week 2 was as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're gonna soon go into draft in a little bit. But in the meantime, let's talk about this matchup for a bit. Who do you think we've all seen the power rankings, right? We've seen we've seen Gucci Yin a little bit lower than Revel Lynx this time around. So I suppose they are a bit of a favorite. They went 2-0 and Jin went, I believe, 1-1 last week. So that's
Yeah.
also that's got a way into the power ranking as well. And we see some first bands coming out. What do you think about these?
So far, still, we're seeing pretty standard stuff. Orn, Rel, Rumble, Brom having. It's actually funny, Brom having one of the so far the highest win rates in SLE Split 5. If I'm not mistaken, Brom has only lost three games last time I checked out of all the games played when he has been picked. So one of the highest win rates, which makes it, I feel like, really interesting because Brom has been, in my opinion, is starting to become the new SLE Sejuani, so to speak, a pretty staple pick. So it's good to see that people and teams are finally starting to sort of take it out of the pool, and I'm excited to see what both of these teams bring after the heavy sort of focus on the support and the top lane table.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I think, oh, well, I was going to say the J4 is a very stable pick these times around on the B1. There's a couple other junglers that are very important as well as Maokai, Ivern, which have not been banned by the way yet, so that could be an answer to the J4 here by Revel Lynx.
Ooh. I do. I don't mind an Ivern slam here into the J4, with the J4 being one of the, if not the best junglers at the moment, but at least hovering the Ivern for the moment, like you mentioned earlier. And it'll be interesting to see what they prio, like you said, things like Ivern, things like Kaisa Ezreal, a lot of ADC options open as well. Nautilus still on the table, so a lot of these high priority picks could still come through.
Yeah, and I feel like with the Ivern, you kind of want to have more of a hyper carry based ADC, which can deal out a lot of damage while being shielded at the same time. Because otherwise you're not really, what are you supporting is then the question. You have some carries in the top lane as well, but something like a Zeri could definitely work around you.
Ooh, that's an interesting pick actually, because Zeri is someone who kind of dropped in popularity for a while just because things like Kaisa, things like the Ezreal were really good, but is starting to come back into the meta, like you said, paired up generally with these enchanter supports like we often saw at least couple of seasons ago. It's not, if not last season, we saw the infamous Zeri Lulu versus like the Lucian Nami
Yep.
pro play in pretty much every game, every matchup. So it'll be interesting to see what they opt in for the support on the side for Lynx.
Yeah, and I feel like that has shifted a bit more onto the Zeri has a bit more options, such as Rakan. I've seen some Brahms as well, which is now banned away. But on the other side, we're gonna have a Nico and an potentially Ashe locked in. Well, the Nico can be a flex, so it could be mid or support. But it's a bit of a question who has more experience or what's the better matchup. Together with Xayah, relatively safe pick. It's a bit of a it's a bit different because your J4 wants to kind of go in, Nico wants to engage as well, and the Xayah is more of a save-ish pick.
Yeah, definitely. So who would, just because they hovered the Ash as well, right?
Yeah,
And I do want to ask, which one do you think you would have preferred them to pick? Do you think Desire is the better option, or would have you rather seen the Ash being locked in?
I feel like Xayah is more of a pick that you can definitely leave alone more, whereas the Ashe is more. It gives you some intel on the enemies, more scouting, some more proactiveness on the pick as well. So I feel like I would have complemented their team a little bit better to gain more options onto the Zeri. But perhaps Zaya gives a bit more damage, a bit more DPS, because you don't really know what Rebel Lynx wants to play yet. You don't really know if they want to go in or if they want to kite more, whereas Zeri and Iron can kind of do a little bit of both. And they picked the Xanta up actually. Want to prio that early on so it doesn't get banned, which is very stable top lane blind pick basically.
Yeah, nowadays, especially with, having that grasp, you can just stack it up very easily. Kisante having about 17 knockups and about 15 displacements, I think, himself, so definitely should be a viable pick in that top lane coming through second round of bans. So far, seeing Seraphine and Ari targeting some of those mage picks. Like you said yourself, Nico still a potential flex. Could go support, could go mid lane, but with it being the Zaya instead of Guqing, I don't know about you, but I expected more so towards the mid than the bot lane.
Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know who has more proficiency on the champion. They are banning a lot of support, so I'm not sure if that means Nico is going more to the support side or not. And on the other side, on Revel Lynx, you can also decide to stall the support pick here and go for maybe a mid blind, but it's hard to say because they're banning a little bit of both, right? So I'm not quite sure. Either way, Nico is probably going to get a decent matchup.
Yeah, I feel like it should be relatively fine, whether you do put it mid lane or in the bot lane. So far, we did see a lot of support bans actually coming through on both teams, as well as alongside the Ari. I'm a little bit surprised. I'm not gonna lie. Normally, we don't see Nautilus go through this far
Yeah.
without being banned, and neither team picking it up. I would assume it should go. Oh my god.
And it's the Bard pickup, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this champion, a little bit of background. This champion recently got some buffs this patch, and it's quite the hot pick right now. And I was actually surprised by Jin that they banned Seraphine and Milio instead of the classic Rakan and Lulu that you want to pair up with the Zeri. But I'm even more surprised by Rebel Lynx that they're picking up the Bard here. I've never seen a Bard Zeri lane before, but now you gotta be scared of picks like Nala still being open, where you really get like this early access to CC together with the Zaya.
I I respect the pick. I definitely respect the pick. That is, like you said it yourself, Bart did see some buffs and is a champion that has been a while since it has seen some play, and it has been quite a long time for him to make himself an appearance onto the Rift, especially in a more organized 5v5 settings. Obviously, you still have those solo queue outliers, who sometimes still like to mock it in, but so far, Renekton being hovered and with the Nautilus finally being picked up alongside the side of Gucci, and I feel like their comp is starting to look pretty nice.
Yeah, especially you kind of round up the computer Renekton into the Cassante, which seems like a decent matchup. I'm not quite sure how that goes out, but I feel like you're just kind of trading back and forth a little bit. The real question is, what is this Bard? What's his role gonna play in this comp? Because the comp of Yin kind of wants to win. They have about 3 to 4 engagers, right, with the Nihilist, the Nico, and the J4. But also with the Renekton, he does like a bit of engage in point and click stuns. So this Bard can really play like a major role together with the Azir actually as well to kind of disengage and make sure the team can't all engage at one.
Yeah, definitely. So there is, like you said, a lot of disengage on side of Revel Links. I feel like there's a lot of just capability to sort of zone away the side of Gucci, and you have things like Daisy, which is a great zoning tool, tends to nowadays do a lot more damage than people would expect, especially with some of the more wackier builds, should I say? We have seen some Dark Harvest Ivern,
Yep, yep.
in the past, so definitely wouldn't be surprised if it does go down that route. Again, it's gonna be in the jungle this time around, so we might see a more supportive style, especially with it being paired up on that area. But so far, I'm seeing a lot more meta champions in a way on the side of Gucci, but that doesn't necessarily mean their comp is better. But what do you think, Zench? Who do you think? Oh, so what do you think, Flay? Who do you think beat them, got the draft win this time around?
It's hard to say. I feel like Reval Lynx has a lot of tools to kind of zone in and out. So it really depends on the engage of the side of Yin, how they're going to access these characters like Zeri and Azir onto the backline, and also how they can actually accelerate the early game. Because this J4 is a very proactive pick, right? It's a very proactive jungler. So if they can accelerate the mid game onto the Nico and to Renekton, really any lane really, they can kind of take those early objectives and snowball their lead later into the game.
Yeah, definitely so as well. Gucci has a lot more tools to sort of be starting up these fights. There's a lot of times when a word like ease of execution gets thrown
Hmm.
around
Yeah.
in especially SLE and especially I wanted yes, a lot of these players are sort of masters diamond, but still I'm gonna use the word like lower level play, so to speak, just because to me, when I look at high level play, I think of like pro play and stuff,
Yeah.
which this is quite a step below. So, still, don't get me wrong, all of these players are very high ranked. All of these players are very good at the game. But
Hmm.
when you look at a setting like this, ease of execution is very important. And in my opinion, ease of execution is definitely on the side of Gucci in this time around.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but I feel like if Revel Lynx has a bit of a higher mastery on these champs, then you'll definitely see a difference there in the gameplay. And later into the game, I mean, a late game Azir and a late game Zeri is gonna have with an Ivern next to them is gonna have so much value to give in these team fights. They're gonna have so many tools to kind of disengage while dealing damage at the same time. And the range advantage, I feel like they have a bit of a range advantage as well. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting how the early game goes and how they are able to repel the Jin.
Yeah, Gucci, they definitely should have a better early game. Then Revel Links, they have the Zaya, they've drafted the Jarvan as well. And a lot of early game power has the Nautilus, has the Renekton, a lot of setup on the side of Gucci. And with the Nautilus being locked in earlier, it does mean that it is going to be Nico towards the mid lane instead of the bot lane, along against Azir this time around. And
Hmm.
definitely a lot of, like you said, a lot of range on the side of Revel Links, a lot of disengage, and a lot of just ways to zone out the sort of engage comps. We're seeing in my opinion, two polar opposite comps, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, only one problem I'm having right now with the draft of Lynx is that they kind of only have one tank at the moment, which is the Cassante. So early game face checking is going to be quite scary because you don't want to run into a knowledge J4 that's just randomly around the corner because you're going to get the wrong neighborhood vibes with that one. So perhaps the Bard's going to be a bit more tanky as well. It's going to provide some tankiness, and I hope to see that they live long enough to tell the tale.
Definitely hoping so as well. And obviously, like we said earlier, scaling is on the side of Rolex. They are the ones who can't just go bin chilling in the early game, you know. They don't need to do much of anything, like we said earlier. They have the Azir, they have the Zeri, maybe. I would have personally liked to see another, possibly another Enchanter alongside the Ivern just to buff up that Zeri even more. And once you get to that late game state, obviously could be a very useful tool. I can understand the Bard just because if they did get another Enchanter, it would give up, I feel like, a lot more than they already have when
Yeah.
it comes to sort of early game power. Bard is known for being a champion that with his tunnel just has the ability to be pretty much anywhere around the map very, very
Mhm.
quickly, which means that you might often misread a potential roam timing just because this champion hasn't been played in such a long time as well, which I'm interested to see if it's gonna be able to catch some people off guard and if Reveling's gonna be able to use the roam timers on the Bard to sort of their advantage and see if they can potentially pick up some early objectives or early kills alongside that.
Mhm. Yeah, indeed. And you're saying a bit of proactiveness from Bart would be cool to get into the early game, but then again, they don't necessarily have to be the proactive team. So it's gonna be interesting how they play that out. And I feel like draft wise, they had a lot of options. Perhaps instead of the Ivern, you go a bit more of a tanky jungler, and then the Bard suddenly can become an enchanter. It's kind of same for the side of Jin. Perhaps you wanted to do the Nico onto the bot lane anyway, and then you pick a different mid laner, for instance, that has like a lot more range, and then suddenly you have more range options as well. So there's like some variables here that could have like been changed around a little bit. But regardless of that, who's your favorite for this game, draft wise?
Ooh. It's gonna be interesting because Gucci have all the tools. They
Hmm.
have all the tools beside them to do the plays, to just make everything happen on the map. And on the side of Reval Lynx, you are gonna spend the first half an hour, the first 20 minutes, the first 50 minutes of the game, putting out as much fires as you can around the map and just hoping that the flames don't engulf your entire house and pray. So for me, I always prefer the comps, and this might be personal playstyle as well. This might just be me, but I
Uh-huh.
prefer the comps where you have the tools to be the ones who make the plays. You have the tools to be the ones who can be proactive on the map, and you're the one who's making the plays because
Yeah.
it also lets you dictate the phase of play. It lets you dictate the pace of the game.
Uh-huh.
And for
Uh-huh.
that reason, personally for me, it is Gucci just because you have that Nautilus, you have the Jarvan, you have the Renekton, so much early game power coming out of these three picks alone. And Jarvan being in a pretty giga OP state at the moment, I feel like does help them out a lot as well.
Right. I think you have a very interesting argument you make there and some well used logic. And I'm gonna go with the other way. I'm gonna go with the team that picked Bard
Ooh.
is the one that's gonna win, basically, right? And that's my support brain talking to me and saying, hey, this champion got really buffed and it's really fun to play. So that's why they're gonna win. Easy
Is
peasy.
it's because of the Bard?
Yes, that's it. Nothing more. Anything else doesn't matter. It's Bard
I
buff.
mean, understandable, and we should begin to the Rift any moment now. But before we do, do we quickly want to touch on it while we have the time? We were talking a lot about the Bard buffs, and for those who don't know, it's mainly his W and his passive that got buffed. Now his W can stack into a maximum of 2 charges, with the cooldown being around 14 to 18 seconds per sort of stack. And they also reduced the charge time from 10 seconds to 5 seconds on the heal, which is a massive cut down. It's a cut down by 50%, which is a lot and can be a lot in lane as well. But we are now finally onto the Rift, and Flay's gonna finally be excited to see the Bard go ham.
Yeah, it looks like the side of Revel Lynx gonna go to stack, perhaps expecting an invade from the side of Yin. But then again, it's only really Nihilus that can go really hard, and then your follow-up is kind of J4. Yeah, not too much to do there. So it looks like they're gonna chill for a bit on that side. Yeah, simple 5 point. So what do you expect? What are the lanes they're gonna play around mostly?
Ooh, I think for the side of Gucci, I feel like it is gonna be that bot lane. At least in my opinion, Renekton shouldn't need any help in a matchup against Cassante. He has that PTA as well to give
Mm-hmm.
him that extra burst of damage and that extra burst of damage in these trades.
Mm-hmm.
And after that as well, getting the amplified damage is gonna be really good for him. On the side of Gucci, I would expect for the majority of the attention to be around bot lane. You want to try and make sure your Zaya gets ahead. Like we said earlier, a lot of dive on the side of
Uh-huh.
Gucci and this Zaya might not necessarily have a team around her because they're all going to be going in. So if you can make sure that Sheffer gets ahead, if you can make sure that this Zaya has a bit of items behind his back, and the side of Revel Lynx might potentially be scared to run into him, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like he's gonna be, or they're gonna feel a lot better about leaving him on his own and to potentially defend against the side of Revel Link. So if it was me, I would be looking towards that bot lane as well. Putting this area behind could be huge for the side of Gucci, but so far we are seeing that we're seeing Obsidian path towards that bot lane, and same with along the other side.
Yeah, exactly. Both sides, both junglers are pathing downs here, as Kim Jensen is gonna get a bit of a push here as first. Top lane prio as well achieved, mid lane prio, bot lane prio as well. So the gym boys are really pushing up here to get some early vision down, I suppose, onto the blue here. And they're probably gonna spot out the mark on the iron, so they know where he's gonna path. As a bit of a trading on the top lane. I'm not sure about this matchup. How do you feel about it? Is this a trade heavy matchup? Is it more a scaling matchup? How do you see this?
In my eyes, it is Zench trying to play aggressive as possible, and Los Murderito just trying to pick up as many grass stacks as he can alongside those short trades. I would expect, for the most part, for Los Murderito to just be looking to scale up. It is a Renekton. After all,
Hmm.
Renekton is known for his early game damage, early game prowess. So against a matchup like that, you just want to sit there, you just want to scale, you are, as they say, being chilling.
Yes, sir.
Ooh,
It's got a bit
matchup.
of an interaction here.
Obsidian could be in trouble. He is gonna use the flag and drag. He's gonna go in, but Malkoner is around. Biggest with a flash through. Obsidian with a flash away does get rooted up. He's gonna go down. Ignite comes down as well. Keller is gonna pick up that kill. First one over to the side of Reval Lynx there on the chase. Shepard trying to get away here. Flash forward from Malkoner is gonna have to slow down. Wiggis could be in trouble. No flash for his Nautilus quite yet. He's gonna go down as well. That's gonna be 2 kills over to Reval Lynx.
Yeah, and that's just a bit of a invade gone wrong angle as I feel like Obsidian didn't quite have the follow up yet, and he went in a bit early. Whereas they didn't quite see where Bart went, as we see in the replay. Bart's already moving down here, so he kind of engages on his own. Bot lane is there in a couple seconds, but yeah, a quick flash out and the root from the Ivern still hits. Kind of skewers this kill, which is a bit unfortunate, I suppose. And then a bit of a chase down here as well. And they can't get away from the Bard portal, right? There's just no escaping after you use the flash.
Very good play coming out of Reval Lynx. I like the response. We were talking about them being a scaly team, and this is the proactivity I wanted to see from Malcona. You saw how early he moved there. Like, he was definitely ready for the play coming out of side of Gucci, and it might have had to do with the early ward as well. They did know, like you said earlier, that they knew Obsidian was there, which is why they had that information to work around with. And overall, just a really good response out of Reval Lynx.
Yeah, and meanwhile, in the top lane, Jin also had a bit of a response as they did a solo bolo onto Los Murdereto. Excuse my language. Uh, which is kind of what you called about. This Renekton is trying to push his advantage, make sure he can get every single inch uh, of of pressure onto the Xante, which is working out quite well so far.
Definitely good to see. Who do you, or so far, who are you expecting this first trick to go over to? I assume it should go over to Gucci, but do you feel like Reval Lynx might want to fight it after the first couple of early kills they got?
I think they definitely want to fight it. They probably feel confident with the early advantage they've got so far. Items look relatively even, but a little bit of an advantage of Zare. As Kim Jensen is going to face check a little bit of Iron, but not too much to worry. Yeah, I feel like the Zare is a bit ahead in items towards the Nico. So I suppose she can go for an early dragon. Doesn't seem like Rebel Lynx wants to do that though, as they're pathing up towards the top side. And this J4 is already down here in the bot lane. So that seems like an easy trade for me. But I don't know
They,
about you.
I mean, I definitely agree. I feel like they have the tools to fight for it. We do see on the mid lane, level 6 for both mid laners coming through now. Wiggles could be in trouble. No flash for him so far. Might get shuffled back here because that's gonna end up getting rooted up. There's no escape for the Nautilus today. Might be able to hook out. The Ignite comes through shield. Will should come up in time. Should be completely fine. But like we said earlier, with that pressure, with the zone, it is gonna be Revelings who are gonna end up starting up the dragon. Obsidian could look for a steal here. No flash for him, so if he goes for the steal, he's gonna have no way out. As well as Shepard trying to push that wave in through the bot lane, trying to get that prio in, like it more. Does still have the shuffle available for him. They might just look to contest this. Obsidian is walking up menacingly. Shepard training with Malkoner a little bit there, just getting as much gold as he can into his back pocket. Obsidian, two Obsidians. One of them is an eco. I'll let you guess which one. Obsidian is looking for the flag and drag red team. That's gonna be Revel Lynx securing up that dragon, and they do end up getting it. Like you said earlier, Flay, the prediction comes through.
Yeah, I think it's quite well played by Rebel Lynx there. They're very patient. They walk towards the dragon together, and you see, I mean, Obsidian and Wiggins are a bit disconnected there, where Obsidian is already way back in the enemy jungler. in the jungle when no mid prio has been established, and they kind of just collapse onto them, and they have to run away basically because they're getting sandwiched from both sides, which is not really the way you want to go about this dragon. And they're still, you saw them kind of stall behind as well, trying to maybe get something, right? Get something like maybe somebody's get left behind, maybe they can pick up a kill, but at the end of the day, it's a 3v4. So if they just stick together, you're not gonna get much, which a bit, I feel like a bit of a wasted of time.
Yeah, definitely so. And like you said it yourself, I feel like it was really well played from Reval Lynx. They zoned out the side of Gucci in, got early damage, made sure Wiggins had to go back to base, ignite him as well to make sure he couldn't heal off of his pots too much. And with the timer they had, recognized the window, recognized their opportunity, got away with the Drake, and this is extremely good for the scaling side of Reval Lynx, who aren't the team that are necessarily pressured to anything in the early game.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, picking up this first Drake means they can give over next three Drakes, which is about 15 minutes, I believe. You give yourself an extra 15 minutes of time before side of Jin actually becomes scary with the Drake stacking. So that's all time you can use to scale up to not get too far behind, as the top lane differentials showing a little bit. Um, and that's all time you can use to get good scaling off. As Bart's looking for a bit of a poke here. Gotta get
Worth.
some spell thief stacks in.
Ooh, shuffle in the mid lane though. Kim Jensen is gonna be under the tower, but just gonna be tickled a little bit. Gonna pop some pots, should be completely fine. And Malkoner making sure that he's securing as many spell thief stacks as he can. Herald started up here for the side of Gucci, but 3 angry inches is around on the Ivern if he can make it there, but chooses to just opt out and doesn't wanna risk anything on the top side. Doesn't wanna throw away any leads that they've got in the early game. And with Gucci securing this Herald, where do you expect it to go?
That's a good question.
Ideally.
I feel like ideally you want to break this mid tower because Azir is very, I would say, somewhat decent at the wave clear and getting this Nico ahead. And oh, meanwhile in the bot lane, a bit of a 2v1. Take it away.
Ooh, bit of a 2v2. Kreller is gonna have the ghost popped. Wig is not gonna be able to land that dredge line. Like it more is here. Shuffle is not gonna be available. Can he get the poke in? Q does come through, does end up getting the kill. Meanwhile, Herald up towards the mid lane, like you said, gonna be getting some more plays. Kreller is very, very low here. Does need to be a little bit careful. Shepard having no summoners could look for potential play. Is gonna be able to find it. I just said Kreller needs to be careful, and then we have that. I'm cursing people all over today.
Yeah, Kreller not being just careful enough. Another tower shot hits him down the behind, and this is here getting this kill on the bot lane. And it looked a bit awkward for a bit. He tried to use a soldier. He wasn't sure, do I have to do the work myself or do I just command some other people to do it for me? And he's comfortably sitting at a 2-0 here as just the space you want to be at as an Azir, I imagine.
Azir is just a glorified bounty hunter. That's all he is. He just hired mercenaries to do his bidding for him as his soldiers. And with this dragon spawning up soon, as well 55 seconds to that, it should be interesting to see which team does end up opting in for it. We said earlier, Like It More has a little bit of a lead in that mid lane. Might want to get his mythic through as well, where the dragon spawns Hex Flash over the wall. Shouldn't amount to anything. Malkoner is 6, Crawler is 7. There's a little bit of a level deficit here, but we do have an Ivern up towards this bot lane, 300 inches making his way over. Blade Caller does come through, but so far the wave is gonna be gone. But gonna try and make a play on this bot lane.
Yeah, I really like this proactive playlist because they want to play around this dragon, right? So getting this bot prio and predicting kind of the J4 is going to be here for a play, as they are trying to look for an active player actually, as they like it more roam down, missing pings onto the mid lane, but it doesn't seem like they quite know he's there. So this could be really bad for the side of Jin. Sheffer
Ooh,
gonna
this
play check.
could be bad. Like It More is gonna be the one who gets engaged, and Shuffle comes through. It's gonna shuffle Wiggins, but Like It More is getting very, very low here. Iron Shields come through, keeping him alive for now. Zench TP down as well. Obsidian is down here. Pop Blossom hits absolutely nobody, but it is Reval Lynx who are getting absolutely slaughtered. Zench is too damn strong on this Nocturne. The TP comes through, the kills come through. Kim Jensen ends up picking up one as well, and it is a 2 for 2 at the end of the day, and it is an even trade.
Yeah, indeed. This TP down from the Renekton, on Zench on the Renekton is really big. Because I feel like they didn't quite, as a little bit of mid skirmish, never mind. Moving on. They didn't quite communicate the TP advantage, I feel like. Because that's very big to consider here. If you're diving someone on the bot tier 2, you need to know if the enemy top has TP or not. As they use it down here, Shepard gets a bit low, but Kreller has to refocus as Obsidian flash into the wall, tries to get out. And then here, this is the big damage dealer. Zench coming in, getting both Azir and Kreller on the Zeri here, which is basically fight's over, right? Your damage dealers are gone. You need to get out, and that's about it. Doesn't seem like they get the Drake off it straight away, but they do definitely get a better position on it.
Yeah, definitely. So just like you said, ran out of carries on the side of Reval Lynx. Both of them ended up getting taken out by the big crocodile up towards that top lane. But it could be Wiggles who is walking on a razor's edge. I feel like every time Wiggles walks up, just he's just really just face checking and just playing to his limits. Dragon is gonna be there up here by Revel Lynx up City. Could look for a steal, no flash for him. If he does go in, he's not gonna be going back out. He's gonna think better of it. Try to try to go for a cheeky Q there to see if he could pick it up, but without the flag there is no drag, and that is gonna be another dragon for the side of Revel Lynx.
Yeah, so they do get the advantage on the team fight. They do get the kills, but they're not getting the objectives as Thresh Line's gonna
Oh,
connect.
Blade Caller comes through. Tempered Fate is good. It's gonna keep Krill alive for the moment, but it's not gonna keep him alive for long enough, as Sheffer is gonna pick that up off of a very good hook from Vegas.
Now, this is the type of plays that we want to see from Jin, these proactive early game plays. It's still pre 15 minutes. They're getting the kills. I suppose you can give the objectives for a little while longer, right? And I suppose if you can trade that for some more kills, that's definitely worth it for them.
Yeah, definitely. So you see double Gore Drinker setup on the top side of Gucci as well. All of these first items started to come through for both teams. You see the Moonstone on 300 inches, meaning it's gonna be more of that supporty Ivern, like you mentioned earlier, alongside that Zeri is gonna be very good scaling for the side of Revel Lynx and should be, I feel like a redemption second coming from him with those 4 Dark Seal stacks as well is gonna be very powerful. Trying to make a play here onto Sheffer in no man's land. He
No
does end up
ultimate.
flashing out. No Blade Caller, no Featherstorm, nothing to keep him alive. Shutdown for Kreller and an overstep from Sheffer.
Now, that's a bit unfortunate because that's indeed 500 gold onto the Zeri, which is kind of exactly what she needed to get back into this game because she was falling about a bit. Kreller was going 15 CS down, and they're looking for a bit of a diver on the top lane.
Is this legal for the Revel Links? They might just look for the tower. TP comes through as well. It's going to be Kim Jensen on the back end of that TP. It's actually going to be like it more. As Zench is going to be pulling the dominance here. It does end up taking a little bit of damage to tower. Getting lower and lower. A lot of members up towards this top side, but no dominance on Zench means this fight could be precarious for the side of Gucci. And it's going to look for a Tempered Fate. It's going to go wide. The Sun comes through, and it's going to be Lost Moderator who gets taken out first. The Cassante is gone, and with that, both teams are just gonna walk away, but Gucci is gonna walk away a little bit richer than Rebels.
Yeah, I really like that play there. They played relatively slow. They're just auto-attacking the tower for a bit, right? And then they baited TP out from like it more, which is really advantage. And then on the back foot, they kind of have to try to get out because a lot of the other members of Revel Links are there first. But then you look downwards a bit and you see, oh, the whole Jin squad pulled up as well. So it turns around into a bit of a 3v4, which they didn't quite notice. It's Kim Jensen looking for an engager on the Zir.
Should be. Oh, very clean combo coming out from the mid jungle duo of the Gucci squad, and Kim Jensen definitely getting a good ultimate there as well. Kreller could look for this 1v1 actually. It's gonna be a 2v1 as 300 inches. He's gonna make his way over Ivern with the root with the blade caller. Comes back through Sheffer. Gets one back. Kreller overstepping a little bit there, and Sheffer at the end of the day, even in a 3 versus 1, gets one back.
Yeah, and I feel like the exhaust played a big part there. As you can he's kind of playing, he knows he's going to be left alone. This Wig is going to roam on the Lawless a lot. So he gets the exhaust, make sure he can try to get 1 for 1. as we have a disconnect here. Doesn't matter, no pause needed. We go right back into it.
That looks like my solo queue games, you know? The ADC dies solo mid, just rage quits. Just gone. FF15, GG teammates, but he's gonna make a return. Shepard did feel like not leaving his team behind for now, and we do see a little bit of an early gold lead for the side of Gucci, which I feel like is expected. When we look at these two comps, but 3,000 gold is quite a margin.
Indeed, it's a comfortable margin. You have a bit of side money. You basically have some cash stowed aside where you're like, okay, I can use this in case of emergencies. If someone goes down, if Reval Lynx gets about one more dragon, I can use that free K to leverage some of my advantages. As they're gonna post up for this next dragon, which I'm not right. We're doing Gemturk Drake, Gemturk Soul. For both sides, it's kind of whatever. They don't really need the extra shield and heal power. As a shovel in the mid lane,
Sheffer is gonna be able to dodge out of the shuffle, but no Blade Caller, no Featherstorm means he's gonna get taken out. Pop Blossom is absolutely massive. He's gonna find 3. Cataclysm comes through as well. He's locking everybody in, but who's locked in with who? Obsidian is gonna end up going down. Kim Jensen very below here. Tempered Fate does go wide, not getting absolutely anywhere. Biggest trying to dredgeline his way out, not gonna be enough. Zench popping the damage, could try. Look at something very sneakier. They have no idea the Renekton is around like before. He's gonna get shielded up, he's gonna get looted up as well. Zench trying to do what he can, but you're not having enough damage for now. Flash forward with the stun isn't gonna be enough shutdown for the Bard, and Lost Murder Retome. The Lost Murders Kim Jensen on the back, and then Dragon should go to Gucci. Reval Lynx.
yeah, Revel Lynx quite. I'm not sure how to say it. Like they started it up quite messy with the shovel from Like It More not quite connecting. I feel like, but then at the even the Pop Blossom hit very big, but I suppose they overstepped a bit. The Zero Tower does a lot of damage here. And then suddenly Sheffer is down, Obsidian's down, and Zench is just trying to get something back here, but it's not going to quite work 1v4. I feel like he gets a good chunk of damage in, but there's no real execute damage, and then the flash comes out, which with the Iron again, he just lives for like a second more, which is quite unfortunate. The shutdown does go over to Bard, which I suppose could be better, could be worse, but he gets a nice redemption off it and building onto that mythic.
Ivern is such a disgusting champion, man. That shield is such a low cooldown. He's just able to keep Like It More alive for so long in these team fights, and you can see them stepping up. This is the issue with an engage comp. If you're behind and you're the one trying to engage and you can't win these fights, you kind of just sit there and just you can't pressure that much.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And we're kind of seeing something unexpected. The carries, the Zeri and the Zeri here are a bit lower on like KP and damage wise, I should say kill wise. While all the side characters basically,
Oh.
as we see a bit of a Bard ulti go white, but don't worry about that. It's just face checking. No cooldown anyway. Don't worry about it. The side characters basically of the side of Revel Lynx, those are the ones getting all the kills. Those are the ones stacking up these items, and I suppose it's fine for them. It doesn't matter too much, right? As a fat Iron will still keep your team alive a bit better, basically.
Yeah, for the moment with the shutdown that Blanconier picked up, it is the Bard as well that is quite fed, or he's got the redemption in his inventory building up towards his next support item. So far, no magic mantle going towards some magic resist, and that's sort of the issue with the
Hmm.
Nico pick if you aren't insanely ahead. We saw a 4-man Pop Blossom, Revel Lynx took it to the face, turned around and said, now what? Like, it's just not enough damage coming out the Nico at the moment, even if it's a 4-man Pop Blossom, to sort of do that much hurt for the back
Yep.
end of Revel Lynx, but it's gonna be the Baron actually. This is sneaky.
As they're instantly gonna back away, they got the TP from Like It More, so they say thank you very much. We'll just reset that and try again, which is a very nice macro play. I like that a lot. The only problem I have so far is
Oh my
face
god.
checking is gonna hurt. That's basically what I'm face checking is gonna hurt, and the war of attrition is probably gonna be won by Revel Lynx, as they do have a bit of Ocean Soul. They have a bit more healing, a bit more shielding, so they're the ones that can stay around for a longer time, basically. without getting too much behind.
Yeah, definitely. So having that bard as well helps a lot, and it is a bit unlucky for the Reval Lynx that they end up getting the Chemtech Drake. I feel like any other Drake in the game would have benefited them so much. I think at this point you are willing to take Cloud just because you have a Zeri on your team, you have an Ivern on your team, Cassante as well has a lot of benefit for that. So the Chemtech Soul is extremely unlucky. But
Well,
people like the Lost Murderito can still benefit from it, but
hmm,
I'm hearing a difference of opinion coming out of your side.
well, I was gonna say the Gemtech Drake still gives extra shield and healing power, and we do have two characters, or maybe
Ooh.
three characters actually on the side of Revel Links that do like a lot of healing and shielding power. And that's the big problem I have so far with the basically the itemization from Sheffer, from Jensen, from Kim Jensen. They don't really have anti-shielding yet or anti-healing, which is gonna make these fights a lot harder.
Yeah, and healing obviously being in a better state now than it was a couple of patches or seasons ago. Now all anti-healing items only reduce healing to 40% instead of the normal 60% it used to be, but so far this Baron starting up for the side of Gucci Yin here. They're gonna be the ones who start this one up. TP comes through for Lost Murderito this time, and again the second the TP is channeled, they just back off and run away.
Exactly. I think they've very much thought about this process. They're like, let's just bait out a couple summoners, bait out some cooldowns. Is Obsidian in trouble? It's gonna save the
Raiden
flash
out
out.
Obsidian's flash.
Bit unexpected, but not to worry. He still has a lot of dashes in his kit, so that should be all fine. So, with this TP advantage, what are they gonna do?
So far, they're gonna air it down mid lane, but might have an engage coming through soon. As you can see, both teams stepping up very, very aggressively, and Ivern and Daisy being the brunt of the damage takers for the moment. Daisy is gonna run it down a little bit there. I feel like that's a reportable offense, but so far, Balconer as well is gonna be in trouble. Cataclysm comes through the magic journey, keeping the Bard alive, but does get chunked out by quite a little bit, and he's lucky to get off that one.
Yeah, quite a well-placed magical journey. Actually goes through walls, both of
Ooh.
the Obsidian's ulti as the wall in the jungle as well. It looks like they're gonna start up the dragon here, but Revel Link say, I don't mind that too much. We'll start up the Baron in exchange. But is this the right call? Will they benefit from this? Will they be able to finish it in time?
I somehow doubt that as the death ball of the God of Gucci Yin is rolling up very, very slowly. Dominus 12th up here. Tempered Fate is absolutely massive. Does end up hitting through people. Delays the team fight a little bit. Zench trying to bite his way. Pop Blossom is absolutely huge. The side of Rebel Lynx gets absolutely demolished by Tim Jensen. The Nico does it all. Baron is gonna be taken by the Revel Link squad. 3 angry inches is gonna be flashing, smiting over the wall. Objective steal comes through, and that is when you type hashtag worth in chat and say to enemy team FF15 because the jungler is here.
Holy moly, what an exchange. They first started up with a bit of a Nihilus ult that goes a bit right. But then Kim Jansen with the huge Pop Blossom comes in, actually does huge damage this time around, sweeps them all up. And, well, three angry ancients and Bart just kind of swoop out and say, we don't want any of that. But then the steal. How do they manage to get this? Oh, there's still a control ward in the bush. They get a little bit of vision, just enough. And he just steals it away.
Oh, it's so good. Tempered Fate. He's gonna hit both of the carries here. Blade Caller does come through. Featherstorm as well does get used up. It's gonna be Malkoner who gets taken out first. Wiggles and Obsidian trying to buy time for the rest of the Gucci squad to make it on out. Kreller looking very aggressively towards the side of Gucci, but is gonna think better of it. And so far, it is Gucci who are in the lead by 3,000 gold.
But yeah, they keep extending their lead. I feel like this Baron play is exactly what they've been waiting for. They kept resetting the aggro, they kept baiting in TPs, and then finally Revel Link started it up. And that's kind of what they were hoping for. They were waiting for them to stack up, for them to kind of take a nice flank angle and just go right at them while they're all together in this little nice pit.
It's very good play, and you can just tell how good Shojin is at the moment. You know, both Obsidian and Zench opting in for pretty much the exact same build, with Obsidian opting for a little bit more tankiness with the Spectral Scowl against all that magic damage coming from the side of Reval Lynx, and it is gonna be the Azir that is the main carry for their side until Queller can pick up some items. But do you expect, or how do you expect Gucci to go forward? Obviously, they're the ones who are lacking the Baron buff. It is only on 300 inches, but how do you expect the side of Reval Lynx to use the Baron buff to their advantage?
I don't feel like you can use it as really a lot here at all. I think you just kind of sit back a bit. Maybe you want to power up some waves to not get your turrets taken, but as you can see, it's already gone. So it's you can't really do too much with it. You're just gonna go back to scaling. You're gonna give a couple drakes. You're gonna make sure at least Azir and Zeri get another item because they really need it desperately. As Shiver has one item or like half an item's advantage, I suppose, over Queller here. And Queller's building more towards the. I'm not quite sure. Is that a BT or is it a shield bow?
I'm assuming it's a shield bow, pickaxe, and scepter both built into it, and it would make sense as well. A lot of dive out of the side of Gucci in his squad,
Hmm.
although I feel like if you get hit by one thing, you get hit by 10 things, because it's gonna be kind of like a domino effect, so
Yeah,
definitely should be interesting to see if it does help out at all when it comes to that shield bow. Obviously, it is quite a sizable shield, but nonetheless, I don't see it making that big of a difference.
exactly. So it's a bit strange. You already have a lot of healing and shielding by your allies, by Malkoner and Three Angry Inches. So I suppose you would want more damage to kind of deal with this front line. You want to deal with Obsidian, you want to deal with Sanch, you want to deal with Wiggis as fast as you can. And Lycanmore already has a nice little damage item that helps him shred down tanks, right? But on the side of Kreller, you don't really have that at the moment, which they could really use of it.
Yeah, definitely. So Zench and Obsidian, like you said yourself, has a lot of HP behind them. Especially when Zench pops that Dominus, is gonna be very, very
Hmm.
tanky in these team fights. Gore drinkers on both of them as well. It should keep them alive for quite a long time. And this is the good thing about Lynx being able to steal those early game dragons. They bought themselves so much more time in this late game.
Exactly. And as we saw, this 3k gold lead is basically, it means a little bit, but it doesn't mean too much, right? They can still lose team fights, they can still lose the game basically, but it does mean they get a nice advantage over these objectives.
Yeah, definitely. So, and we do see that we became Tech Dragon number 2 over to Gucci in, but still 10, 15 more minutes before that all Forsaken Elder Drake spawns. And that is a lot of time for the side of the Revel Links to scale up if they can get there.
Yeah, and we're talking about scaling, but if we're looking at the itemization of Like It More, I see a potion and a Zonias, or a stopwatch, as you'd say. And I don't believe a large rod and a stopwatch built into Zonias anymore. So, oh, he's actually big brain. He's using it to push these towers even faster, dealing basically a lot of damage onto these objectives. And he's gonna go for a bit of a split push action, which is quite smart. In the meantime,
Big macro play coming up from Like It More, like you said, it is gonna be Kim Jensen who gets taken out by Mal Koner, some supportive combat down towards that bot side, but Like It More, like you said, doing a lot of damage to these towers, is gonna be able to pick himself up 2 towers there. I believe, if I'm not completely mistaken. It's gonna be sharing gold on the second one, but still a lot of gold going over to Like It More, and we were talking about the scaling, that is exactly what the side of Revel Links need.
yeah, I really like these macro plays where you kind of try to. Oh, meanwhile, TP is coming in. They're gonna jump
Wait,
right into action. Ooh, like it more, just barely escaping.
this I
Oh
was I
god.
was trying to look which one of those TPing, and I just looked at Like It More, and I was like, oh, this cannot end well, but does end up making it out. Baron started off here as well. 5,000 TPs coming through for absolutely everybody. They're trying to focus the Azir. Like It More is gonna post a stopwatch. If you don't keep yourself alive for now, Preller is still alive. Keep your eyes on this Azir. Keep your eyes on these carries, as it's gonna be the side of Reveling to absolutely decimate Gucci, and the Cataclysm isn't enough. Obsidian Living isn't enough. Shotgun to Queller and everything over to the side of Revel Links, and now it is them with the boat lead.
Oh my days. This is disaster. It looks like they're a bit disconnected as they're trying to get onto the objective at the same time. Here, like more already TP in, so you know it's a Cassante. You back off a little bit. Here, a big flash, but then the Zonias comes out. Obsidian doesn't quite team up with them. And then in the meantime, Kim Jensen is not even here yet. Comes in with the Pop Blossom, but a little bit too late because your carries are already dead. Wiggins is already dead. Sheffer is already dead. There's no follow up really to that Pop Blossom except for Obsidian with a nice ultimate, but it's not gonna be enough. So they really gotta link that up to make sure they get their damage onto the enemy at the same time.
Definitely. So a little bit disjointed, like you said. Lost Margarito doing a lot of work in that team fight. Managed to hold back both Sheffer and Wiggers out of pretty much all the carries from the side of Reval Lynx, which meant that they could just have so much more time, both of them so much more time. And Sheffer finally hitting these 3 item power spike as well is gonna have that LDR in his inventory, 4 items for Queller, and slowly but surely, this Zeri is becoming more and more of an issue to deal with for the side of Gucci.
Yeah, exactly. 4 items now, as opposed to Sheffer on three, 3.5, probably going for the GA next. It's gonna start looking real rough, and as you saw, they're already winning fights. They're 3k ahead now. They were 3k down, and they were winning a fight. Now they're 3k ahead. So we're gonna see how the fights go down then, as this Zero is comfortably sitting at 3.5 maybe. So now your carries are skilled up, right? In the mid game, you were losing fights because your carries weren't quite there yet. Your side characters were there yet. They had all the items already. So this is a rough spot. This rough spot, and you're gonna have to like try to refocus your efforts and really focus onto a couple like key targets that you want to take down, and try to play on your own tempo, right? Because Revel Lynx kind of has the tempo decider now with the Baron. They can decide what they want to do. So as I'm looking to Obsidian and Wiggis to kind of find these angles back into this game, even though it's so hard.
Yeah, that's the key word there. Hard. It is extremely difficult to find angles onto the surveilling squad. It is very hard to engage onto a bard, onto an Ivern, as we do see some I like it more just going to the bouncy castle a little bit, you're getting bounced around, and as I was saying earlier, it is very hard to engage on this squad alongside the Ivern, alongside the bard. As I say, that death charge is gonna come through here. Queller is gonna be the target. No dredge line so far. Wiggis is gonna think better of himself. Daisy just buying so much more time. The Blade Core is absolutely massive. That's gonna be a huge populism coming through as well. It is gonna be the side of Revolings who gets the carries. Taking out Azir is the target up next. Like it more. He's gonna be the one under siege here. Blade Caller, Featherstorm all being used to try to take out the Azir, and it's gonna be Murder Rito who is on his own, gets murdered himself, and the Murderito becomes the murderess as he's gonna get himself taken out. Now Koner and Obsidian dueling in a brawling 1v1 up towards this bot side. Shepard says, I've had enough, you're wasting both of our time. Let's just take out the Bard and let's just take out this dragon.
Wow, and this is exactly what they needed. This is basically their pass right back into this. And it looked they were getting chased down. It looked like they were gonna die here. But then a big ulti by Obsidian, big Pop Blossom as well, basically takes out both like the carries of Revel Lynx, you could say. And then they just kind of follow through onto the Zero next, which doesn't stay alive for too long. Doesn't get too much done. And then it's just clean up, right? It's cleaning up these Bard characters, these side characters on the top lane. So really well played, nice engage found, and they get the Drake off this as well, which is quite important, I feel like.
Definitely so. That is the third Chemtech Drake so far. It is a lot of tenacity. A lot of free tenacity coming through as well, and not a whole lot of shield and healing power to be able to use those drakes like you mentioned earlier. It is a very important aspect of it as well, but so far they are one dragon off of getting that soul, and getting that soul for someone like Zench, who spends most of his time under 50% HP but does get healed up, could prove to be absolutely massive for the Renekton.
Yeah, exactly. And as we're moving on to the next objective, which is going to be Baron, we got to keep in mind this Elder Dragon that can spawn after next dragon, which is 8 minutes away, so we're not going to worry about that too much right now. As the Baron is the next important objective, which is going to basically allow Rebel Lynx to push multiple lanes with a lot of strong minions together at the same time, which could be scary, as Obsidian is going to flash out from the Fate Scholar to make sure he doesn't become a golden plant.
Not entirely sure if we need to flash there, but it's gonna be a safety flash coming out. Obsidian dying would be very treacherous. That's gonna be a flag and drag in. Not sure if that's an engage you wanna necessarily do. Lost Moderator, not the target you wanna be looking for. You wanna be looking for color, wanna be looking for like it more, wanna be looking for the carries on the side for Reval.
I feel like this is not necessarily the
Oh,
position, but they're looking and they're trying. I feel like this position is a bit, it's rough to play around because you like chokes as you're playing with a Pop Blossom and a Dredge Line, etc., which is quite nice. But at the same time, you're playing against an Azir, a Zeri, so playing in the jungle around all these walls is rough, to say the least. It really depends on who gets the better engage, who gets the better angles, and it's a lot easier for Revel Lynx to do that with these portals. As
oh my god.
Wiggist is going to sidestep the Tempered Fate or the Fate Skull and get out.
It's so much damage coming out from Like It More. This Azir just hurts so much. 4 items for him, and moving towards the Baron, this could get spicy for both sides.
Yeah, exactly. As Wiggis is still in the base, so this Baron is gonna go down real quickly as they do have huge damage.
Not for the Rito so far, staring down Stench is not able to make the steal. It's Like It More who actually secures it. Cataclysm is absolutely huge. Pop doesn't come through as well. Hits 4, but it's gonna be enough. It's so much damage coming out. Shepherd is
Shiver.
gonna be the target up next. That's the Feather Storm coming out. Blade Core not available quite yet. There it goes. It's gonna be the side of Gucci Yin who actually end up getting taken out. Like It More is too goddamn strong with the inches holding it down. It is gonna be Revel Lynx with the ace. It is gonna be Revel Lynx with the Baron Luff and Revel Lynx who are looking for the base of Gucci.
Yeah, you can see Lost Murder Murito is smelling blood in the water. He's going for this end with the Azir, with the TP, and Like It More is gonna go for this end. He's gonna go for his well-deserved win, as they're just outplaying their enemies basically at this point in the game, which is really well played.
Revel Lynx absolutely holding it down, managed to survive coast through that early game. That was the treacherous point. Those were the dangerous waters they had to go through, and got to that late game where Like It More just absolutely decimated on this Azir. Absolutely popped off. Just so much damage coming through alongside that Ivern. It's just such a good comp in that late game coming out from the side of Revel Lynx. But who do you think played the best on their side in that game?
Ooh, it's hard to say because I feel like into the mid and the early in the mid game, it was definitely Free Angry Inches who was carrying his team quite well. He had 100% KP for a long while, and he also stole the Baron when they really needed it. Like if they lost that, that would have been quite disastrous. Um, so I'm gonna go with Free Angry Inches for the early and mid game performance that kind of allowed this mid laner like it more to be able to carry the late game.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Like It More definitely did a good job in that late game to keep himself alive, but it was 3 Angry Inches who sort of was a big reason why Revel Lynx got through the early game as smoothly as they did. And like you said it yourself, with that Baron steal, in my opinion, it is the point or it is the time when they turn it around. And like you said it yourself, a big reason why they managed to do so. A 7,000 gold lead at the end of that game from the side of Revel Lynx. And what do you hope to see in this game number 2? Is there any changes you expect to come through?
I'm not expecting too much difference. I mean, they're gonna be switching sides, so perhaps um, if Revel Link's gonna keep with the same style, where they kind of just do more of a chill play style, where they want to sit back a bit, scale up, then the side of Yin is gonna have to try to be, I suppose, even more aggro, right? But it really depends on all the matchups. But perhaps you can shift your focus up to the top side because Zenj was kind of out farming and out killing his enemy top laner. So perhaps you're gonna try and do some more with that on the red side, which could be an option as well. But there's a lot of options, a lot of variables which are still to be determined. What about you?
Def- Definitely a lot of things that could change. I feel like I didn't mind their comp. It is just the fact that they got scaled. I think often
Mhm.
League of Legends isn't that black and white. There are, like you said, a lot of variables. But I genuinely think it is just a difference in playstyle. They got outscaled. It is just that simple. I feel like they played the early game decent. It wasn't perfect, but definitely found some early leads. The fact that Reval Lynx got 3 dragons with a scaling comp like this in the early game is, or should be, absolutely illegal. But nonetheless, managed to pull it through. And Gucci tried to make a good comeback, got those 3 dragons as well. But at the end of the day, it was Reval Lynx who ended up taking game number 1. And I would love to see what they have for game number 2. And for adaptations, I feel like they don't need to change much. Feel like they just need to play better in that early game, and we should be getting into the draft of game 2 any moment now. But I'm hoping to see something exciting for this game number 2.
Yeah, I agree, I agree. And I definitely feel like even in the late game, like you said, they were getting outskilled, but they still were able to fight.
Yeah,
And if they, for instance, were like together at the same time a bit more, Wiggles maybe it wasn't in base because he got low from an early engage, could have been an entirely different story, right? So if they're on even footing, it can be a lot more scary. But let's see. Same bands kind of coming out from the side of Yin. Rebel Lynx doing similar things as well. They don't want to Drave and they don't want to Rumble. This time around they're banning the Olaf, which I don't remember from last draft. So perhaps they're trying to play around that, making a pick happen on that.
yeah, definitely already seeing a couple of adaptations come through, and here is the Iron ban, which I'm not at all surprised to see, and that might just be the quickest Revel locking I think I've ever seen. Reveling's being very confident with that.
Yeah, perhaps they already got some draft pep going, but you do still have the Poppy open, which is a common counter pick, which you can kind of flex in the same lanes as the Rel as well, where you can put in both jungle as support. But it looks like the Nico is gonna get hovered here, which is kind of I feel like a pick they go for a lot, which is flexible as well. So fine as well. It looked great in game 1. A lot of engages, a lot of big ultimates, right? But then the
Kim
question is,
Jensen.
what do you wanna pair with that? What do you wanna pair with the Nico at this point?
Yeah, Kim Jensen being a very proficient Nico player, like you said, we saw in that last game. We saw in the game number 1 a couple of big ults coming through. Things like Nautilus, Maokai are still on the table. Zaya, Zeri from the last game. And there
Whoa.
is the Zeri, but this time it's going to be for the side of Gucci in and not the side of Reval Lynx.
So Reval Lynx are now gonna pick Zaya then, right? And perhaps now it becomes a bit harder because you kind of want to keep the Rel as a flex. So perhaps you do ADC plus a mid laner here. As a Kai'Sa is getting hovered, which is quite a flexible pick, can both disengage as engage. But Jink
Ooh.
would have been great. Could be great as well. Yeah, nice hyper carry lock in to go with this Rel, which up more into a team fight comp. And they go for the Cassante again, which is I like it. You kind of blind to top lane, which in this meta, yeah, let's be honest, it's not having too much impact these days. So, but perhaps Zench is gonna prove us otherwise with this Fiora hover, which seems like quite the counter pick.
I'd be excited to see it. I would love a Fiora game here, but it's gonna be the boring good pick instead. Boo! It is gonna be the Gwen locked in for Gucci, and I'm very excited to see this Jinx pick. Jinx is a champion that we have seen rise up a little bit in popularity, but not too much, hasn't skyrocketed like some of these other champions has. And obviously, a good scaling pick into the Zeri, something Gucci was lacking in the last game, but this time it's done with the Zeri, and it is Revel Lynx with the Jinx response. How do you feel about the Jinx pick?
I feel like it's at the moment it's still like a fine, like solid pick. It makes team fighting a lot easier when you get one reset and you just get going, and especially paired with this Rel, the splash damage from the rockets is gonna do a lot of work. So you're kind of expecting Rebel Lynx to engage, right? So they're banning some disengage gems like the Poppy, and I feel like, yeah, Yin is they're reactionary. They're making some reactionary picks, such as the Zeri and the Gwen and the Nico, but I'm not quite seeing a team identity yet. I'm not quite seeing what they're going for. So I'm excited to see what they got for R4, where they kind of bring together this draft.
Yeah, definitely. So Akali and Lulu both being taken off the table for the side of Reval Lynx on Gucci and double bans coming through, and it is going to be the Alistar as well. A good pick into the Zeri generally. But a lot of these early engaged supports are things like the Nautilus are still open if Reval Lynx want to opt in for that. Jinx Nautilus throws me back to like season 4, season 5 would be a great throwback, a great bit of nostalgia there. If they want to pick it up, might end up opting for an Enchanter instead. Ivern as well got banned away on the side of Gucci, so that's not
Hmm.
going to be available, but it's going to be the Azir locked in instead.
Interesting pickup, but last time around we did similar. They did a similar pick as well. Rebel Lynx at least on the red side, so they're kind of swapping carries, which is interesting. I don't know. I don't know what it says, but I suppose it's a good pickup because it's a disengaged champion right against the engaged champions of Rebel Lynx. As they're hovering the Seraphine here, I didn't expect it to be this such a prio pick, but I suppose they banned it game one for a reason, and this is their reason. It's a very good engage champ, or like follow-up champ, I should say, for the first engage primary engage from Rel, which could be quite hard to play around, but I've not seen it too much lately, so strength is up for debate.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously Jomi is known as one of the more proficient Seraphine players in SLE, so definitely Revel Links have taken the playbooks out of or books out of his play, and so far it is Guccian who have just stolen the entire draft of Revel Links. It is them with the Azeri, it is them with the Azir this time around, and Nico for Tim Jensen once again, I would assume as the support pick should come in. It is gonna be yeah, no, it is Nico support. Yeah, with the Azir locked in, it's gonna be Nico in the bot lane. Jarvan being hovered at the moment as well, and I would expect this to get locked in, and especially against the Jinx, not a lot of escape tools and a lot of mobility out of the AD carry from Revel Links.
Yeah, that's definitely true, but if you look at the characters around the Jinx, there you have the Rel, you have the Cassandra, you have the Ahri, which are a lot more mobile, and they can provide definitely some peel, which it's gonna be quite scary if you want to play a J4 here. I'm a bit I mean, I'm a bit surprised to be honest that they saved that for the last pick. I thought they would maybe rather want the counter pick on the mid lane, try to play around that, but perhaps they wanted to take the zero away as well from the Rebel Lynx, as like it more performed quite well in game one. So there's a lot of thoughts going on behind the draft, but in the end, we're gonna end up with yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say similar drafts because Rebel Lynx really they're looking more like an engaged draft this time around, whereas Jin is looking like a little bit of everything, right? They got some comfort. They got some, yeah. I feel like it's definitely some comfort picks here and there, which is nice to see.
They were just buying stocks in Monopoly. You know, they got whatever color they could land themselves on. They got a little bit of range, they got a little bit of engage, got a little bit of disengage, got a little bit of early game, a little bit of late game. They've they've got the full house here on the side of Gucci, and on the side of Rebel Links, it is like you said, a lot of supportive characters coming through. It is gonna be the Seraphine trying to keep that Jinx alive. It is gonna be the Rel doing the engaging alongside the Aryan. Is going to be interesting to see what the side of Revel Links can pick up in this early game with the early Ari coming through. But who do you think, or whose draft would you prefer when it comes to this game number two?
I mean, last time around, my logic was whoever picked Bard won, so no, so no, no Bard picks this time around. So this time I have to use actual arguments on logic, and Rebel Links have
Oh,
ease of execution. They have a great team fighting comp. They, I suppose, early game they're a bit weaker, right? Where if you look at this bot lane, you have Jinx, Seraphine against Nico Zeri with a J4, which is probably where the focus is going to lie around. But it's up to the Rel to kind of counter that focus. Um. So yeah, this time around I'm going to give it to the Rebel Lynx.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I would honestly, I disagree.
Disagree.
I'm gonna take a hot take. Okay, I'm gonna be a little bit of a rambunctious rebel, as they say, and
Lady, I'm sitting down.
are you sitting? Are you? Make sure you're not standing up because this is gonna be a very hot take.
I'm sitting down. Windows open, cool air is breezing through.
AC turn on and everything where you got the fan going too.
Yes,
but
sir.
it is okay. So in my opinion, it
Uh-huh.
is gonna be very, very difficult for the side of Revel to deal with this Gwen. We have seen what Gwen can do when it gets unleashed. We've seen how good it can be. And Zench is a very good top laner in his own right as well. And Gwen, in the hands of someone like him, could, in my opinion, prove absolutely treacherous. Gwen is someone that we have been seeing a lot more lately as an option
Hmm.
into a lot of these tanks, into things like the Ornn, into things like the Cassante. This time around, it is going to be the Cassante that she's up against, and this Gwen, if it can't be stopped, is gonna be such a menace going in. It's yes, you have the Seraphine, you have the
Hmm.
Encore, Jinx's range. Gwen presses one button, goes into Hallowed Mist, and suddenly none of that matters. There's so much range on the side of Reval Lynx, and the Gwen can just say no, you, with one button. Alongside that, you have the Azir, which provides that a lot of backline damage. Azir being very good at the moment as well. And you have that Jarvan to make plays in the early game. Who he's gonna make those plays around, I don't necessarily know. Because it's not like there's a lot of early game damage coming out from the side of Gucci, but it is gonna be, I feel like, on Revel Links, on that mid jungle duo to make the most things happen in this game. But for my on my argument's sake for Gucci, this Gwen, if it gets ahead, is gonna be so unstoppable that I feel like they don't have a response, as well as the Zeri scaling, as well
Hmm.
as Gucci in losing the first game. It means that they're just that much more fired up. They want to prove themselves. They're like, yeah, we're just gonna take away Revel draft. We're gonna steal away their champions. And surely, if we just look at what they did in game one, we can't lose, right? Like they already won with it, so it's ironclad. The strats are there, and I don't know. I feel like Gucci might be able to take this one and type the series.
Interesting. I think it's a very interesting argument. I think you definitely convinced me. I'll tell you that though. You've convinced me of the Zench Gwen carry. You've already shown up
Ooh.
big on the Renekton in game one. So I agree with you that there's definitely carry potential there. But I feel like if you leave this Jinx untouched in the bot lane in the early game, um, it's gonna be a problem. So that means that this J4, which is gonna have to focus bot lane a little bit, is not gonna have time to help Sanj win the matchup against Los Moderatos. And
Yeah.
that's gonna be a problem. That's a bit of a problem because I feel like he does win the matchup, but only later, after maybe an item and a half. And the question is that on time? Is that enough time?
Yeah, I do agree with you that there's gonna be some gold influx needed into Zench's pockets to make sure he beats out the Cassante. The early game focus on the side of Gucci should be on the bot lane. 100%, most of your setup is there looking around on side of Gucci's squad. There is not a whole lot of CC. The only sort of CC they have in the early game is gonna be the Jarvan and the Nico. So I would expect most of the attention to be along that bot side with the setup that they have, but it's gonna be it's gonna be really hard for this Jarvan to make any place anywhere with so many escape holes on the side of Revel Links and just so much mobility alongside the lack of setup on the side of Gucci. But it's gonna be, I feel like, really interesting to see how these two comes like code together and go against each other, because I feel like both of them are very, very unique.
Yep. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. So we're kind of, or at least I'm kind of expecting, right, for this, for J4 to have a bit more bot side focus. And then Rel automatically has to do some bot side focus as well. So we're gonna leave the top lane alone again for a bit because top lane matters in this meta. And then it's just gonna be a battle on the bot lane where the Seraphine, I must say, she has decent setup. It's not the best, but I think it's decent setup against a Nico and a Zeri perhaps, with the follow-ups of some Jinx traps. And I'm looking into the mid lane. What role is Azir versus Ari gonna play for the rest of the map? That's also something you gotta wonder about.
So for the early game, I would expect for the Ari to have Prio I feel like definitely after you get some items in as well. After 6, I expect on the side of Reval Lynx for them to absolutely just yeet the Ahri out of the lane. They say, leave now and just
Hmm.
go do your things around the map. You know, we saw what Like It More did in that game number 1 on the Azir, and we saw what he can do if he gets ahead, if he gets that ball rolling. And maybe he might be might be the answer for his team this time to get the ball rolling for them. But it
Exactly.
is going to be very interesting to see as we finally get into this draft, into this rift for the last game of our day to see if Gucci can type the series.
And talking about starting to get the ball rolling, we're looking at the top lane here as we get the first invade. Little 5-man invade onto Zencher with no flash, by the way.
Zinch, my boy, no flash, gotta be careful. Rooted up, charmed up, and ignited. Who's the kill gonna go over to? It is gonna be the Inches who picks that up, not the 3. This time it is the 1 and first blood over to Lynx.
Now, that is both a blessing and a curse, as those angry angels are gonna get 4 angry angels, but it's only a little bit of boots, right? So it's not too crazy. It's not a jinx with an extra long sword or anything like that. So I think you're fine. You're okay. You stake the L. You say, okay, die little one. We do mental reset. We go again. Not too big of a worry. So we see both junglers starting in the top side as expected, pathing down towards the bot lane. As I see 2 Zeris on my minimap, which is always a bit confusing. But then you realize, hey, we're playing the same Nico in this game. We can be the same champ.
Yeah, Nico being one of those champions I feel like makes the games really fun to watch because you never know what's gonna happen. But like you said, it is gonna be both of the junglers patting towards that bot lane, and I do want to talk a little bit about these boots because you did say it doesn't mean that much, but on a champion like Darrell, who gets especially low movement speed when he's dismounted, and moving between camps, yes, the movement speed isn't that big. It's not like you just got a Vampiric Scepter on one of your carries or anything, but it could mean that the 300 inches might get a little bit better of a timing down towards the bot side, which could potentially help him negate some of the pressure coming out of the Jarvan in the early game. So
Mhm.
we're gonna have to see how that's gonna end up working out.
Yeah, I feel like you make a fair point. It does give a little bit of advantage as you get a bit more movement speed, a bit more gank potential, which is nice. The question is, how are they gonna set up this wave? Because both junglers are gonna. I imagine Obsidian's gonna be there a bit quicker than freeing ranges. Perhaps they skip a camp, maybe they do a little bit less. As it looks like a mid gank is gonna happen in a bit.
Ooh, King Jensen, my friend, is gonna get the dash out for flash out. Good flash coming out of him. Meanwhile, on the top side, we were talking about the Gwenda, and you said he needs 1 item, 2 items, level 6 to make it through. He said, hell no. I don't need no items. I don't need no levels. I just need kills up in myself. And it's gonna be Zench with the solo bolo up towards the top side.
He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, all I need is 9 CS, 2 to 3 levels, I believe, is that, and I just need the enemy top laner to not flash when I'm 1v1ing him, and then that's all I need to kill this guy." And that's great. That's exactly what he needed. So that's well done by him. As we see a bit of a mid push, getting prio. I mean, 3 angry inches again with like the early prediction, not prediction plays, but the early proactiveness, right? That's what I like so far about him. He's looking actively for these ganks. He's making use of timers where he knows the J4 is maybe not there quite there yet, and he's not really looking towards it either. As a again a nice timer, has a bot gank angle here. J4 is on the top side, and that just
Oh.
forces a flash.
Wiggles with an early flash. Angry Angels is gonna follow up with a flash of his own. It's just gonna get taken out, and Kreller gonna pick up that kill. Sheffer does get the dash out. It's gonna end up popping the ghost, and double sums here for the side of Gucci in his bot lane burned, but still, it is Kreller who picks up a kill.
And these are the type of plays that kind of confuse me a little bit, right? Because you know your bot lane is pushing up. They're trying to get a wave in. They're shoving the wave up. And then you decide for yourself, okay, let's get a second Skull Crab instead of helping the bot lane out. Because you know, the side of Reval Lynx, they're more they're playing towards their team. They really want to make sure they get like good lanes going, etc. And if you do decide that, then you gotta make sure you play safe. You gotta respect that. You gotta respect that 3 angry inches can just run bot instantly and say, "Hey, I'm gonna gank this," and that's something you gotta play around, because otherwise it ends up a bit at disadvantage for yourself.
Yeah, definitely so. And this time it is Gujin with with a little bit of a disadvantage going up towards the bot lane. Fortunately, it was only Wiggles who ended up dying, so I'm just gonna be able to cancel a recall here. Does have to wait frozen for the moment, but with it going under tower here should be completely fine. On the side of Lost Murderito for that to bounce on back towards him, and with this dragon being up now, it is gonna be the Kim Tech Soul, which means that we are lucky if it is not gonna be a Kim Tech Soul duo for the day.
Thank the Lord, as we've seen engaged on the mid lane here.
Ooh.
Kim Jensen gonna get stunned up. Like it more in the chase. He's gonna get it. One more dash, one more W, and it's enough.
Big plays coming through from 3 angry inches there. Gets the gank onto that mid lane, and already we saw what he could do on Ivern. He can bin chill, but once we put this man on an engaged champion, an early game champion, absolutely unleashing hell on the Rift. 100% KPA for the moment, and a Drake should be going over to the Lynx.
Yeah, really well played. Nice proactive. They know the mid laner Kim Jensen doesn't have a flash, so they play on this flash timer, and they actually play on like a pretty huge wave as well, which is kind of gonna get lost. Got lost under the tower as Kim Jensen did not have TP. Obsidian looking around for this dragon, but it's a little bit too little, too late. It's already gone. Looking for the compensation play on the bot lane here, Sheffer.
Ooh.
Changing some auto attacks. It's just a little tickling in the early game, as ADCs do scale up quite well, but in the early game it looks like a tickle fight, let's be honest here.
Especially when it is Jinx versus Zarya, both champions that aren't necessarily the best in the early game. Like, if you put a Draven in that situation, it might be a different outcome, but it is definitely worth it for, I feel like, Kreller more so, because having that Seraphine by your side means you have that sustain, whereas Wiggles is more so a CC bot. He's a stunlock champion on that Nico, is just looking to provide that CC, provide that extra sort of engage or disengage, and with that being said, provides no heals for Sheffer in that bot lane, so the D blade is the only thing that is giving him that sustain.
Yeah, exactly. As we see, let's look at CS numbers for a little bit. We see a bit of an advantage both in the top lane as in the bot lane, as Zen's gonna try to freeze his wave once again, which he's been doing a lot this series, which I like, is advanced macro mechanics, right? I mean, at least if you're in season 4, but nowadays it's just a classic 101. What do you get? What you get taught the first couple days when you play League? As in the mid lane, it's actually the other way around, where like it more has a bit of an advantage over Kim Jensen, which I suppose Ari is a bit more of an early game champion. Maybe she gets prio a bit more, and he did lose that big wave on their tower when he died without flash.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate, I feel like a little bit unfortunate play as well, but like it more does have the ultimate back up now, does have the Ari dash, known for having those 3 flashes up in your inventory. Spirit Rush being a very useful tool in your disposal when it is up, can be used up a lot of ways. We are seeing a potential dive up towards the top side. I see very aggressive movement from Obsidian. He's gonna be under the tower. Lost Murderito could be stuck here. Fire Dragon does end up going through Needlework as well. Snip, snip, snip. Gonna snip away Murderito's health bar, and goodbye to that wave, as well as the TP is up, but not gonna be up soon enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big advantage. They're trying to push this lead onto the top lane even more. They're kind of letting go of the bot lane. They're saying, okay, you do your thing. We're gonna make sure Zench is ahead, gets enough plates in the early game, and I like it. I think it's a good adaptation. Try it out, see what happens if Zench gets a couple kills, a couple more CS. 30 CS up right now. So that's gonna be interesting to see if we can take over the game, basically, because they're as they're looking onto the Herald here.
Herald is started on up, but meanwhile in the mid lane, it is like it more who's hovering towards the bot side and not the top side, which means the Herald might just go on over, but he's gonna get
Wait, why am I talking
reset.
about a herald? There's no herald spawn up.
Nine
Never
minutes
mind,
into
ladies
the
and
game,
gentlemen.
hold on now.
Hold on a minute. I was talking
Wait a
bullshit.
second, you bamboozled me. Not
Psych,
quite.
they just took it really fast and it's in Obsidian's inventory. Never mind, ladies and gentlemen. Moving
Yikes.
on. Anyway, as they
They
did the
took it
topside
so
play.
fast that even we didn't notice.
Whoops. Happens, ladies and gentlemen, happens.
So speedy on the Gucci. It's so speedy, in fact, that we just blinked and it was just completely gone. But Wiggles looking towards the mid lane, seeing if they can put that Herald down somewhere. But where do you expect this Herald to go? Do you think it's going to be put in the mid lane again, or maybe trying to look for some more gold into pocket of Sin?
I think you put it in the pocket of Sentia, because if you put the Herald down in top lane now, you can get the entire turret. You could also say, hey, Shuffer, I've been ignoring you for a little bit. Here's a little compensation gift, right? You come back, you're like, hey, I'm sorry I've been away from home so much. Here's a little flowers, here's a little bit of chocolate. I hope we can make it up, you know?
That'd be very wholesome coming out. Kreller is gonna be in a bad end of a Pop Blossom, does end up having to burn Flash for his sins, and Wiggles is gonna take that trade any of the week. You know, on the top side, there's gonna be Lost Margarito, who is gonna be interval snip snip, comes through Needlework, 4-stack Zench, is gonna be looking for the solo bullet here. No Ignite being up means he cannot get the kill, but already Zench with that Riftmaker doing so much damage.
Wow. And yeah, you were completely right, by the way. I was talking about 1.5, 2 items. Doesn't really matter. One item, less than one item is more than enough. So you're gonna make a play onto the bot lane here. Sheffer is trying to get out with the dash here.
Oh, Magnet Storm intercepts the dash. He's gonna go down another kill to the pocket of Crowler. This Jinx is gonna be excited. Wiggles is gonna be looked upon next. Super Mega Death Rocket not going to be out yet. It's not gonna be available as there is very low mana bars as well, but the cooldown just isn't there. But neither is gonna be the dragon very soon, as it's gonna be started up here by the side of Lynx.
Wow, and it is was a bit unfortunate. I kind of saw what Sheffer was going for with a long ass dash, but the Reval Lynx were just waiting at the end and saying, "You can come anytime. We're here with the welcome party." And he got intercepted. Didn't even get to use Flash with the Encore follow up, which almost got Wiggles as well in the process.
Would have been
So
a very happy coincidence, you know?
yeah, true, true. So how do you bounce back from this? Because clearly you're kind of exchanging topside pressure for bot lane pressure. And when you're playing with a Jinx, that's not really what you do want to do. But we do have this Grand Champion, which is great, right? Great against range champions, as he's gonna freeze once again. Holy moly! We should.
Honestly, I feel like it's if you're to the side of Gucci in here, I feel like it's kind of fine though,
Uh
because
huh.
like I said in Champ Select, Zenster presses Hallowed Mist and did like Krello just stares at him and says, "Now what? I can't auto you because I'm too far away. Yeah, I have the range, but I can't pair on with it." Zench again just, and the more he freezes, the more Lost Murderito misses CS, the more there's gonna be a detriment on this top lane as there's a 2v2 kill in the bot lane. Sheffer is just getting completely beat up down here.
Well, you mentioned it 2v2, but I see still flash up, ultis up. I think it was just a
Yeah.
murder. I think they just caught him in the street and he got messed up. Kim
Oh
Jensen
my
shuffling.
god. Speaking of being caught like it more, it's gonna get shuffled on back onto the tower. Obsidian with the flash forward. Here comes the dragon without the flag. But it's gonna be angry inches up towards that top lane. Finally deciding to help out Lost Margarito, and maybe he just got snuck up on the streets on that bot lane. No, he just got shivved on up, but it's gonna be Zen looking for the tower, 300 inches with the potential play here. Also, it's the bot side. Zen taking the tower, but what cost Needlework is gonna be available first. That comes through Ignite as well, and Angry Inches just abandoned the ship entirely. This is a captain that will not go down with this ship. This is a captain that took the life raft, left everybody on board, and said goodbye. I'm getting the hell out of here.
Well, that was a bit unfortunate. I was just about praise free angry inches for his active reading of where the plays are going to be made on the map. And then he just left his teammate like, well, turret is down. Why am I even here anyway? And then left him around. As Shepard's going to get a bot lane turret here as well. Nice objective focused playmaking. I like it a lot. As well,
Ooh, interesting encore coming out. Obsidian is gonna get caught by the chompers here. Might actually get killed here. It's gonna be the Jinx. This ignited Sheffer ends up hopping over the wall, lost Murderito, and they'll teleport it down here as well. Sheffer with the ghost being popped. Malakon looking for the flash forward. The good side step, good feet coming out from Sheffer. In the meanwhile, on the bot side, Wiggers is gonna be the target under siege, 300 inches. He's gonna force the flash out the Nico, and it is a good pickup for the side of Reval Lynx.
I must say, for what Revel Lynx actually invested into this, only getting 1 kill out of it is a bit underwhelming, especially considering Zench is gonna get a push up here in the top lane, gonna get the extra pressure. Yeah, could have definitely gone better, but at the end of the day, they get another kill, they get more advantages, right? They only lose TP, maybe a flash, a couple of ultis in the process. As looks like Zench might be in trouble here, as collapsing up to the top side.
Can he needlework his way out of this one? Is the Hollow Mist going to be enough? Puts himself immune, the charm comes through, gonna get knocked on up as well, and looking for the needlework, looking for any damage he can find, but it's gonna get taken down for the moment here. The heal comes through, but it's not gonna be enough. Trevor is gonna put the ultimate here as well. TP comes through. This could be the start of Revel being in trouble. Popos gonna step up as well, and Kreller just cannot do absolutely anything. It's gonna be him who actually finds the kill on the bot side. That Joker doesn't forget to come through Alpha Shepard, ends up getting hit, ends up getting tagged up. Ends up that ghost reset. Preller is excited as well. Might be able to hunt down Shepard. He's a speedy boy as the snipe comes through, and it is gonna be Obsidian who finds the 1v1 kill and trades all over the place.
Yeah, and while this play is actually happening on the top side here, we get Kim Jensen's TPing in from the mid lane, but there's just Kreller is just standing right next to him. A bit of a disrespect there, and he just dies before he even gets here, which is why it looks so funny. We're like, okay, the Zero is joining into the fight, big turnaround, but Kreller just ends up getting 3 kills off the back of this fight, which is just a W. That's just a W around. That's what more do you want? You have a big team fight. Your AD carry gets 3 kills of it, gets 2 items, mythic in the bag, 6-0. Can we still say that Sanchez is gonna turn it around against Kreller in this stage of the game, which is a bit rough?
Looking a little bit dire for the side of Gucci, but Zench stepping up very aggressively, seeing what he can find is going to be the Hextech Drake on the targets here for both teams, but Gucci just forces Revel Lynx out the river, says this is our home, slams the back door behind them and tells them no way back in. It is going to be Wiggles who's going to be rooted up, charmed up, well, being looked on here, but they chase the right one, like it more. No flash for him means there's no follow-up. Super Death Rocket is gonna find its target, and Kreller, with the absolute American sniper move, is gonna get himself a kill there. But Obsidian could look for something aggressive, stepping up very far forward. They know exactly on Server Links where he is, and he's gonna plug and drag himself over to defensively to overtake blue buff.
Yeah, and I'm a bit surprised that they were giving the Drake up, right? Considering the power spike Jinx just got, but I suppose they weren't quite in position yet. But this mid group kind of doesn't do a whole lot. The wave has already gone in 2 seconds, so they can't get the tower. There's only a Herald up. There's no Baron spawned yet. So in the meantime, Zansh is getting 3 towers and he's saying, okay, thank you very much. All the tier 1s are still up from the side of Jin, which is really nice. Meanwhile, engaged on the mid lane.
Encore is not gonna get absolutely anyone. Malconer is gonna be looked upon here. It's gonna die. The Cataclysm just collects its targets. Therefore, still has the ultimate up on proc. Is gonna run out now. Zench finally making his way over. Does have that needlework. Not enough mana to play around with, but should be just enough to get him by if there is no extended fights here. But they are just looking for the mid lane tower. That is their big prize for the moment. This mid lane tier 1 should open the map up a lot for them, but in the side of Revel Link's it's gonna recall is gonna let this one go.
Yeah, and I think very well played. They're kind of playing around with pulling people to the side lanes, right? With Zench pressuring. and then Los Mordoritos has to respond, and then it kind of creates some moments on the mid lane where they have a bit of a 4v4 with maybe I suppose like 1 or 2 tanks, and they got some angles there where they can find these picks on the Malkoner, on the Greller, because they're just a bit more immobile, right? So that's very well played. They're kind of creating windows where they can get nice clean engages off.
It is very good to see, like you said, and so far they're seeing a couple of items come through, but Kreller is the big winner here. 7-0, 2.5 items in his inventory already, and this Jinx is very far ahead of the competition.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, 2 items, 2.5 items here. 10 CS down, but we're able to overlook that when you're 6 kills up on your opponent, which is should even out the gold a lot in their favor. As you see some pressure on the mid lane here, but again, there's not much of a wave, so perhaps they can use the Herald. It's gonna get the first turret for them, which you gotta keep in mind, even with the advantages on the Jinx they have, they don't quite seem able to get some map advantages as well. The Drakes are starting to go over to the other side. Um, and yeah, you're getting heralds in exchange. You're getting a couple kills more, but the team fights aren't really happening yet, which is gonna be the big pivot point of this whole game, right? You have this big ADC, but if you can't get them into a good 5v5, how are you able to utilize it?
And that's the big question a lot of these teams have. Obviously, with it being a bot side heavy meta, it is a lot, or often, it does come down to the ADCs who are the ones who find themselves with a big lead like this, and it is often them who need to find the creative workaround alongside the respective team to just see, like you said, what they can do in fights because that's where ADCs shine. They shine in those big 5v5s, obviously outside of a couple of outliers, Kai'Sa, but you know still looking for them team fights, that is where you want the Jinx in, and so far being pretty much even footing. I would actually love to see the gold here just to see how much of a difference there is in the AD carry department. 1,600 towards Kreller, so definitely a big. Oh my god, that top lane. Ooh, that top
Uh,
lane.
yeah, that's 4K as opposed to 1,600, which seems okay. Seems like an okay difference to say, hey, that's like 1 BF, maybe an extra dagger. The 4K is a full item list, you know. That's a full item and a half that you're just up against your opponent, which is way scarier.
That's like what? A Trinity Force, which is the most expensive item in the league, plus a dagger, but Shepard could be looking at a bad enough a deal here. It's gonna be Krello who ends up hitting the dash, ends up hitting the damage. And with Wiggles, Zonia, it's not gonna buy him nearly enough time to get himself out of this situation. Double kill over to Kreller, and this Jinx just keeps picking all up these kills. Meanwhile, in the bot side, just a little bit more trading. But Baron is up here, Zench just looking for the split push when might as well build Hullbreaker at this point because this man is not grouping anytime soon.
No, even with the Baron getting started up, they're saying, hey, give it all. We're getting towers, we're splitting the map. This dragon is up, which is actually being taken by Kim Jensen in the meantime. It's a
Obsidian
really
Smite.
smart play, right?
He's got Smite, but he doesn't know the CC chain
Ah,
comes
it's
through
not
and he
enough.
doesn't get enough exposure to smite it up. Zench is gonna find himself solo bolo up to that top side, but what's new? He's been finding those all game, but the big prize goes over to Reval Lynx. It is them who get the Baron.
Yeah, I'm really interesting to see what they can do with this Baron with a 10-0 Jinx, ladies and gentlemen. Because if we look at the map, it's not really in their favor yet. They're giving Drakes up, they're exchanging towers for Barons. So right now, they're gonna have to try and push this Baron objective like really to their advantage, right? They're even in gold somewhat, so I would like them to get some towers, like move this Jinx around. Maybe not only mid lane, maybe we'll go bot a little bit, see what we can do. Because you're gonna have to get some fights going at this point. If you can't do it with Baron, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, definitely so. And the gold is pretty much dead even, 500 over to the side of Yang, and it does feel like that. Zench is just tearing up through the map basically. 3 items alongside a void staff on this Gwen means he's their ticket over to victory, but split pushing is gonna be very difficult up against the Baron buff. Ooh, they're actually looking for like get more on the bot side. Spirit Rush does get popped as well, but does get taken down. Kim Jensen trying to defend this mid lane tier 2 is able to do it alongside his soldiers.
Yeah, and as we can see, well, they push in one wave, right? It gets cleared by the Azir, and suddenly they're not regrouping. They're moving on to the next objective. Ooh, Escred is gonna move over a ward here. She's gonna get spotted. It's actually in the back. So here they have Baron, they have all members up, but they don't get a turret. So what are you gonna use this Baron for? Is the real question.
I mean, it just yes, they have the Baron on the side of Reval Lynx, but it doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah,
still the ones who are on the back end. They're still the ones who are not getting the push. And Wiggles is gonna be chunked from Little Big Crawler, finally getting to output some of that damage he's got in his back pocket. But again, it's just Revel Lynx. They seem scared to me to take these fights.
yeah. I mean, how can you not be scared? Because your wave's getting insta cleared. Kim Jensen is just like popping all these minions away. And in the meantime, Zench is just winning any 1v1 or even 1v2 on the side lane. So you gotta be a little bit scared, because if you fuck up or you miss Zench for a second, you're like, hey, where is he at? And he TPs for a flank, which could be right now. It's
I
gonna,
mean, there's a fake Sench in the bush. Populson finds absolutely everybody. Cataclysm comes through as well, but is it gonna be enough? Outnumbered here. Here comes Boss Murder Rico on the Casante for the support, and Zench just couldn't make it in time. TP is not gonna be popped, and Revel Links finally found the team fight that we were talking about so long for.
but they get Kreller. The big thing is they get Kreller, even though they find the team fight, they don't really win it, because Kreller gets shut down here, which kind of negates your whole push. Now you're just forced to go back because you're stuck with an Ari and a Seraphine who can't really push with you that much. And in the meantime, Zench is joining up, so there goes your momentum. You're trading ADC for mid laner, which is apparently not what you want to do right now.
And I mean, like you said, a big shutdown going over to Gucci Yang, who already were winning in gold, and it just skyrockets their gold lead that much further. And how do you, okay, so how do you deal with this Gwenflay? Because so far Zench has been unstoppable in the side lane. Oh, unless this might be the answer, you might be able to send enough members on over. Maltoner is gonna be the target of the investigation for now. Zench is getting chunked, is getting burned up. Your color can pick up the shutdown, but it is gonna be Maltoner who gets it instead, and that is a greedy, greedy Seraphine.
That is indeed a bit unfortunate. I mean, you're asking some good questions, and there you have the answer. They just 5v1 the Zench. They just 5v1 the Gwen, which is apparently enough. And his team doesn't really get anything on the other side of the map. As I see a very suspicious minion walking around in the bot lane jungle, which almost had me fooled for a second there. And they're gonna run down the mid lane here with this pressure. They're looking for some flanks, right? But they're not quite regrouped yet. So I wonder, what can you do without Sench? Are you gonna
We
make
will
this
see.
fight happen? Or do you actually call it off and say, hey, give some space, give them a little bit,
We'll see what the caster
cancel the
minion can
shuffle?
do. So far, it is gonna be Kim Jensen with the big shuffle. Populous comes to finally the minion outs himself. We get finds and finds the CC coming through shutdown onto Sheffer. He's gonna find one kill. Angry is good look for the kill back here. Sheffer is gonna dash over the wall. Flash comes through, and the smite and from to get him down, it's gonna be Revel Links with the team fight win. It is gonna be them who find themselves at a 3 members deficit, and it is them who find themselves without a dragon and a soul point onto Zerdakuchi.
Which is actually quite huge. Baron also spawning up in 20 seconds. So let's see how this fight started. They're actually looking for a flank here with the suspicious minion and Kim Jensen on the flank here. And keep your eyes on this shovel, ladies and gentlemen. Pulls 3 people in. Kreller is under tower alone. Basically just gets 1v1 by Sheffer at this point. And then the whole fight is just in disarray, because Sanch is actually in this fight, right? He TP'd in, he's here, and he's able to dish out a huge amount of damage to the backline.
Big play though is that shuffle, like you said, Kim Jensen doing an absolute beautiful job, but Obsidian could be. Oh no. not where you wanna be charmed up, knocked up, is gonna find himself the flag and drag to safety. But this time, the snipe is gonna hit, but not gonna be enough as the shield comes through for Obsidian. But they could look for the Baron with Obsidian being this chunked.
Yeah, you make a good point. It looks like more of a steal angle than, but as Jin has done all game, uh, they rather just trade. They rather go mid, probably. They want to
Oh
catch
my
something
god.
else, or
That's so much damage coming out. Two-man Encore, Wiggles not having a lot of HP to play around with. He's gonna be lost by Dorito, who ends up TP forward. Sheffer does have the lightning crash available. Could use it, could go in here. Awesome. It's gonna go through. Wiggles with a questionable play there, but Sheffer is gonna be the target up next. He's gonna look for the way out. Is gonna be the needlework caught by Zench there, looking for any ways out. It is a disengaged party for the side of King. Everyone's running for the hills, trying to get the hell out of there before they get taken out, and the Azir turret is gonna buy them enough space to do just that.
yeah. Well, what can we say about this one? It was a bit they don't lose that much, right? They lose the Baron. Bit unfortunate. They weren't quite in position. Obsidian didn't have enough HP, but I think they're gonna look. Can they look for another flank? They do need to defend the towers here, as
They might look for the
Reval Lynx are
game.
looking for the end. They're trying to end the game right here, right now. Can they do it? Wiggins is up again. So it's basically a 5v5 at this point with the Zench. And they seem to decide against it. They seem to decide, hey, let's not do this right now. Zench on the flank, Obsidian looking as well.
They don't want to risk it. Look at the top lane wave. If they risk it right there and they all die, it's GG's for them. With them right in the Baron buff, it's gonna be able to opt out. Can they
Oh,
catch someone? Queller is all of his lonesome for now. Zench. Needlework is gonna be up and available once again, but the Dawn Talon miss for him means that he's gonna CC
oh.
up, gonna get locked up, gonna get knocked up, and Queller has that reset in his inventory. He's gonna get one, he's gonna get two. Kim Jensen is trying to make his way out, but cannot find it. Shut down over to the Rel. Obsidian, the only lone survivor like it more, is trying to rush himself on out of there, and this time it is gonna be Ying with the turn. It is gonna be Kreller with the 12 on 2, and it is gonna be them who are looking for the next towers of Reval Lynx.
And I think they just won the game 5v4, ladies and gentlemen. Los Murderetos was defending top lane without TP. And it was actually Jin looking for a fight here, 5v4, which is understandable, but they didn't quite get the engage. And then Sanchez kind of left on the side with not much follow up, not much engage behind him. And that's just the game, ladies and gentlemen.
What a game and what a series overall for us. It was such a good performance for so many members. I feel like from both teams. Both teams put up an amazing fight, and it was enough for Gucci to just say, these champions seem pretty good in game one. I'm just gonna take those instead of the ones we had in that game one. I'm gonna be using those for ourselves. End up getting the win this time around and ending up with a 1-1 in our series. And who would you say was your game MVP for that game number two?
I think, ooh, it's a rough one. I mean, Kreller, of course, is going 12 and 0, 11 and 0, I believe. And that can't be overlooked, right? So, um, I think I'm gonna have it to give it to him. Even though Free Angry Inches is pulling up again, he's making a proactive plays, right? He's at the right place, the right time. I can't overlook a 12-0 jinx. I can't just say, hey, it was a jungler just spoon feeding him the whole time. That's just well played by him.
Yeah, definitely. So, and okay, I'm not gonna say anything yet because I do want
Uh-huh.
to hear your thoughts on this first, but definitely I feel like an exciting game number two as well. And who would you okay? So from the team of I want to say Gucci this time around, we'll take them first. Who do you think was your MVP of the day from their side?
Oh, from that. That's a good question. I always like that when you go, hey, you lost, but who was still like good performer? Um I feel like both Kim Jensen and Zench had like very good performances. They definitely held up their own in like these solo lanes. And into the late game, they were very important in looking for teamfight flanks as well as getting objectives, etc. But in this last game, I mean, they were both very impactful, right? Zench was getting a lot of advantages in the side lane and a lot of gold. But in the meantime, in these team fights, Kim Jensen was very like pivotal to getting like a good shuffle, a good engage, etc.
So
And then
you
in
would give
game
it to
one,
Kim Jensen.
I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. Especially looking at game one, the Nico engage is also very big, also very nice. So yeah.
Okay, fair. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. What about on the side of Reval Lynx? Since normally I don't ask a losing team, but since both teams did take a series today, it is going to be a tie. Technically, there is no losing team for today. So, who do you feel like was the best player for Reval Lynx on
Yeah. Um,
today?
I believe they won both games, but I might be tripping. I think 3 Angry Inches will take it then as a series, as a match MVP.
Three angry inches. Ivern in that game number one, in this game number two, ends up being the Rel as well. And it is gonna be them who, like you said, end up taking game number one and game number two as well. And it is Kreller who ends up coming big. Yeah, my bad on that one. It did end up being 2-0. I don't know what I was thinking, but it is gonna be Revel Lynx who end up beating Eugene 2-0, and it's I feel like this is gonna be a tough blow for Gucci because Revel Lynx is a one of the like coming up teams who a lot of people have been looking towards, but is still new to SLE. And Gucci have a lot of old standing members, have a lot of people who have been around for a while. They have Sheffer, they have Kim Jensen, Zench. All of these people have the veteran status, have been here for such a long time, and being beaten out by newcomers in such a big sense like this is it's gonna be a tough blow to see. I feel like, but do you expect for Gucci to be able to bounce back from this? How do you feel like, or what are your thoughts going into week three when it comes to Gucci?
Oh, I definitely think they'll be able to bounce back. I feel like it's just I personally think like Roll Link's gonna be like one of the stronger teams, so there's no shame in losing to like teams that are quite strong. You just gotta keep your mental up, and then just go next week, right? It's easy as that. Just reset, get a good night's sleep, get some vault reviews in, and then you just come back stronger. That's how we do.
We live and we learn, right? Touch it.
Exactly.
Definitely so, and it is does mean that it's gonna wrap us up for our first series of the day. There is a second series coming up. It is gonna be Black Manta versus Wacky Race, but we will have a quick stream restart once we get, and while we do that, we're gonna get everything set up. So it might be like 15, 20 minutes, give or take, probably longer than that, but definitely not gonna be the only League of Legends on the SLE channel for today, and definitely another series coming up. And Flay, I want to thank you very much for joining me as well. Thank you to Peppa for producing. It is going to be Lou and Algren who are going to be your caster for that series number two. So me and Flay are going to be done for the day, but definitely make sure to come back after the stream restart to catch that second series of the day. And for us here on the booth, very good day, very good night, depending on where you're watching this from, and have a good day.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone. See you in a bit.